My name's Joel Hynek, Visual Effects Supervisor for Predator 2 and Predator 1. The main title opening was sort of a surprise reveal meant to make you think you were still in the jungles, but you're in Los Angeles. And in fact, in the future, because we shot the film in 1990. All these different treatments were just a few different ways of doing a colorization of a grayscale to make the title look like the Predator's heat vision. The background was shot, or the main imagery was shot on film, of course, scanned, turned into black and white, and from those grayscales, color was assigned to each level of gray. I believe we were trying for sort of a, the liquid, the heat distortion effect. As heat rises through air, it makes the air ripple, so we were trying to get that same feel in the title, which you see some of in the Predator's heat vision. You can often see the heat rippling. It's accurate, it's real. But this was just a symbolic attempt to copy that. Title treatments are funny. They seem to get a tremendous amount of attention in movie making. And thank God for video that we're able to run through a number of versions before hitting pay dirt. Previous to that, of course, we were doing it all on film, which took forever. This movie was a sort of a good transition between optical effects and computer effects. The plasma zoom down was something we did in the computer. This was the early days of computer-generated effects, and in fact, most of the movie is all optical effects. This particular one was a little CG creation generated pretty much from noise and zoomed down to symbolize the Predator's craft coming to Earth. So after what seemed like endless testing of various graphic treatments for the title, we settled on a pretty simple, just red title over a colorized background.
I said put it down, asshole!
This shot we accomplished with a motion control camera that was programmed to tilt up and shot a number of plates. One was the first plate of the background itself, of the antenna, with nobody there, and then shot the same thing again with a wider lens, which would help us in the camouflage effect. And then we shot it again with the red guy there, with the red-suited Predator monster. I was on set while this was happening on a rooftop in Los Angeles. It was a hot summer day, as I recall. And the guy in the red suit, he had a rough time. Sometimes they were piping cool air into him because it got a little hot in that suit. Today, I think we would probably do the same thing. Aside from actually trying to computer generate the character, the body movement for this effect, it would be much more efficient, I think, actually to still use a human being in a red suit and do the original photography the same way. The close-ups were, of course, much easier to accomplish with a locked-off camera. The main reason that we did not use the dreadlocks when the Predator was in the red suit was because that was a matting nightmare. So we just kept it simple, kept the Predator's shape without dreadlocks to make it easier to understand and not create any noisy images. And the red suit was really sort of because that's the way we'd done it in the first one when we were shooting the Predator against green jungle. We went with a red suit and just sort of stuck with that for Predator 2. But the reason it's a red suit is like blue screen or green screen. It's a color that you can control optically.
I said put it down, asshole!
This is one of my favorite shots. Underneath the water was a dolly track that was driven by a motion control camera, or motion control computer. The camera itself sitting on the dolly with the camera body about an inch above the water. The pneumatics under the water were programmed from the same motion control computer, or the same computer that's making the camera move down the alley on a dolly that you can't see, that's just under the water. The pneumatics were the things that caused the water to blow up. They were copper tubing with about 20 little holes in them, and they were driven by compressed air. A solenoid was used to turn the air on and off, and that was also driven by the motion control computer to go off in roughly the pace of walking, but really set to go off at a good distance away from the camera for maximum dramatic effect. What we're seeing here is a combination of the alley shoot with the pneumatics under the water shot by our underwater motion control camera, and a stage shoot, a black stage shoot, where we had set up marks for the predator to hit as he walked in front of the camera. We had a audio click track, just sounds, little beeps that were timed to the pace of his walking. If the clicks were going off, that was the point at which he should put his foot down. It took a few attempts, of course, to get this right. And as you can see, he's not doing the best job of that at this point. But after several tries, we finally nailed it and got his feet to hit the right spot relative to the camera at the right time. There's still, the human factor here. It was not totally computer controlled, and so we just had to get the human in sync with our motion control camera. The actual camouflage effect worked better than usual. Since this was a photochemical process, an optical process for doing visual effects, you never would get the same thing twice. You would build a set of mats, put the shot together, and sometimes it would come out with matte lines, and sometimes it wouldn't, even if you'd done it exactly the same. But in this case, it worked very well. The sparks were meant to be the predator's camouflage starting to short out, and those were hand animated on an animation stand and combined optically. This presented some interesting challenges for optical photography, visual effects. As the subway was shaking all around and we were shooting our background plates, but since the subway was shaking around and the camera was on a shaker box, something that made it move back and forth, we had little problems how to stabilize the predator relative to the plates. So we took LEDs and stuck them around the subway, little red LEDs powered by 9-volt batteries, and then use those, track them on the optical printer, frame by frame, noting where each one of them was numerically, and then matching the other imagery to it. We were able to make him shake around by tracking these little LEDs that we had placed on the subway. This is one of the early tracking shots that, was done in the old optical days.